Okay, so to do your statistics homework in Excel, first you have to download Excel or get access to Excel. There's an Excel product called Google Sheets, which is available typically for free, but it's a bit problematic. You're better off with actually regular Excel. You can download that using your Pima ID. So if you just contact the technical support number at Pima, they can give you some information about how to download basically all the Office products, Excel, Word, and Access and things like that through your Pima registration. So that's what I recommend. So I'm going to first start out there. Then I'll kind of show you what Google Sheets looks like in a minute. So what I've done is I've gone to one of the homework problems and hit Copy Data to Clipboard. And then I went into Excel and pasted it in. Okay, so you just click on the Paste button to paste in your data. Okay, and it'll paste it right in for you. So here's the data from the homework problem. And now to compute the mean, let's do the mean first. So now to type a formula or a computation into Excel, you always start with an equal sign. That tells Excel you're about to compute something. And then we want to type the word, for mean, you actually type the word average. Notice there's lots of different functions in Excel that all start with average. We're just going to use the very first one, the one that's just called average. So to select it, just double click it. And then you want to tell Excel where your data is located. So you highlight, click on the first data item, first cell that has the data, and hold your mouse key down and slide your mouse down and down and down till the end of the data. And then release your mouse key. Okay, and then I'm going to go back up to where I was working. And I'm just going to close the parentheses so Excel knows I'm done, and then hit the Enter key. And there you go. There's your average. Okay. Now, to remind myself what that is, I can just type the word mean or average in the next cell. As long as I don't put an equal sign, it will just interpret that as text and just type it in as text. Okay. So that I know that's my mean. Now, what about my median? So equals, start typing the word median, and notice it brings up all the functions in Excel, all the built-in functions that start with those letters. So I'm going to select median, double click it. Tell it where the data is. Hold down your mouse key. Slide your mouse down or drag down to the bottom. Release your mouse key. Go back up to where we were working. And close the parentheses. Enter. Okay, and let's remind ourselves that that's the median. So I'm just going to type the word median. Now for mode is the most common data item. Sometimes there's multiple modes. If let's say there's a data item that occurs like 5 times and there's some other data item that also occurs 5 times, and that's the most frequent, those would both be modes. Okay, how do you find all of them? The way you find all of them is you use what's called mode multiple modes in Excel. But to use multiple modes, it's a little tricky. What you have to do is you have to highlight, before you start typing your formula in, you have to give it lots of cells to use, because if you have lots of different modes, it needs a place to put them. So you highlight several cells. I usually highlight like 5 or 6 cells. Just, highlight them, release, and then start typing equals mode. And notice it's bringing up different things that start with MO. I'm going to choose mode.mult. So double click, tell it where the data is. Hold down your mouse key, drag to the bottom. Okay, go back up. Release your release the mouse key, close your parentheses, but before you hit enter, you have to, because you want to fill multiple cells in, not just one cell, you have to hit Control and Shift together and then enter. So Control Shift Enter, and notice I had 3 different data values that are occurring the most times. The 276, the 301, and the 329 are occurring they're all the most common. These NAs simply mean there were no additional multiple mode items. I suspected there might have been, I guess I highlighted 7 cells, so it only found 3 of them. So it filled in the first 3 cells with answers, and these are just blanks, essentially. Okay? So these must be occurring the most frequent, 276, 301, and 329. A way to tell is if you highlight all the data, by highlighting the column, the name of the column, and you go up top on the ribbon to Data, and then Sort. It brings up a sort dialog. Notice it identified that this is different. This is text. So it identified that as a label or header. So it's giving you the option. It's saying my data has headers. That's checked because it suspects that the words baseball player, batting averages is not data. It's just a header or label, and that's correct. I want to leave that checked. and then hit OK. I'm going to sort from smallest to largest. Notice none of the nothing will change. None of your values would change because I've only changed the order of displaying the data by putting it in sequence. So let's look where the 276 is. So it looks like there is 2 copies of the 276. Okay. What about the 301? So for the 301, I've got 2 copies. Now your data might be different than this. I've got 2 copies of 301, and then it said there was a third mode, and that is, in my case, 329. And of course, there's 2 of those. Okay, so all 3 of those would be modes because they're all occurring the most times, namely 2 times in this data set, right? So these are all modes. So I can just remind myself that these are all modes in the data. Okay, you can also do things like variance and standard deviation, which you might not have seen yet, but you will. So for variance, there's lots of different variance functions in Excel. The one to use is just VAR, just plain old VAR. So double-click VAR, highlight where the data is by holding down your mouse key. The fact that it's sorted will not matter. It's going to give you the same result. Okay, and that's what's called my variance, which is a measure of how spread out the data is. And then you can also do standard deviation. So equals, for standard deviation, I just use the STDEV, plain old STDEV of the data. Standard deviation is essentially what's the average distance the data is from the middle or mean of the data. Like how far away are the data items on average from the mean. Okay, that's what it's measuring. Okay, and in this case, that's my answer. So that's my standard deviation. Okay, there we go. Fun, right? Okay, now what if I do all of this in Google Sheets instead? So here is the same data in Google Sheets. Actually, let me check. Let me actually paste in the same exact data because I think I modified it to get multiple modes. So I'm going to copy this, Control C or Command C if you have a Mac. And then I'm going to paste that in. So Command V or Control V. Okay. And now that's the same data as we had before. So now to do a formula equals, and then we're going to type in for the average. Okay. Single click, not double click. Google Sheets, you have to single click, don't double click. It's kind of weird. And highlight where the data is located. It should start filling in. If you don't see it filling in the data like it is here, like in the formula, notice it's updating the formula. That means you probably double clicked by mistake. So don't do that. Don't double click, just single click. Close parentheses, enter. If we go back up, it should have computed the average for me. There it is. Right, that's my mean or average. Okay. For the median, okay, let's kind of go down to here. Whoops, hang on a second. So then equals median. I'm going to single click, don't double click. Highlight the data. Again, we're in Google Sheets. In Google Sheets, you single click, you don't double click. If you double click, it can cause trouble. Whoops. Okay, enter. Let's see, so is that my median? There you go, there's my median. I'll type the word median so I remember what that is. Now for mode, again, we're going to use mode multiple, right? So highlight several cells to give it place to put the answers. Then type the word equals mode. Single click on mode mult. Highlight your data. Single click, don't double click if you're in Google Sheets, okay, to select the function. If you're in regular Excel, then you would double click to select the function. Okay, and then Control Shift Enter. And now with Google Sheets, it's typing in some hidden code that's really behind the scenes in regular Excel. In regular Excel, when you hit Control Shift Enter, it's secretly creating what's called an array or multiple cells where it's going to put the answers. It goes behind the scenes in regular Excel. In Google Sheets, it just shows you that this is happening. So in order to accept this, you have to release the Control Shift and just hit Enter to accept. Okay, and it'll produce those modes for you, the most common data items. Okay, so that's the only tricky thing. That's kind of why I prefer regular Excel over Google Sheets. Okay, so I should actually say modes, plural, right? And there you go, fun, 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 right? Oh, and what about standard deviation and variance? Same idea, right? Equals VAR for variance, single click, highlight the data, You don't have to say do if you don't want to. Option. Okay. There's your variance. And for your standard deviation, equals ST, plain old STDEV, highlight your data, single click if we're in Google Sheets to select that function. Okay, close parentheses, and that should be our standard deviations. Go back up and take a look. Yep, there's our standard deviation. Okay, and that's it. Fun, right? It's not too bad.